Veterans Chronicles is sponsored by the state of Qatar, representing Qatar's commitment to the U.S.
I'm Greg Columbus. Welcome to Veterans Chronicles. Our guest this week is Harry Martin. He's a U.S. Marine Corps veteran of World War II and the Battle of Iwo Jima. And sir, thank you very much for being with us.
You are welcome.
Where were you born and raised, sir?
Well, I was born in a traverse cabin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And that's about it.
When did you join the service?
Joined the service in 1943. Tried to get in early. I enlisted twice. First time they caught me because I had somewhat altered my birth certificate. And I tried to make 5 of 4. 1924 as opposed to 1925. That would have made me 18. And so that didn't work. Finally got the word that I'm not in the Corps after I'd already taken my physical and passed. So they caught up with me, washed that out, and I came from a trapping family. My father and mother were divorced when I was 3. And my grandma raised me. In the summertime, my grandma would come out. She lives in a different city. My grandma would come out, she'd stay with us, and we'd raise vegetables and what have you. And we'd use these vegetables to barter for the things we didn't have, okay? Because we were a low-income family, low, okay? And from there, in the winter, we hunt and trap to make our way through to receive money, or not money, but to barter for the things we didn't have, because we were kind of a light truck farming in the summertime. And so that's pretty much the way it was. We trapped mink and muskrats and fox and whatever, beaver and whatever. So that was my background. I grew up there. I knew blood because I used to skin pelts and kill the animals if they were alive. And so I grew up in that atmosphere, blood and smell of flesh, fleshing animals and what have you, fur-bearing animals. And so I had a pretty good start for the blood that was to come. It didn't bother me as much.
So when they actually let you in the Marine Corps, where did you go for your basic training?
I went to San Diego, and from there, San Diego, recruit depot, went up to Camp Pendleton, Camp Elliott, and took my training there, advanced training.
And how soon were you sent overseas?
Almost immediately. In other words, we had no leave. Went overseas, assigned to a unit, and went overseas.
And where did you go?
Went to, first time to Hawaii, Oahu, and then from Oahu we went over to Maui, and that was our base in Maui, 4th Marine Division.
And then where did they send you in the Pacific Theater?
You mean the islands?
Yes.
We went to a little island named Saipan.
Oh boy.
It wasn't very little, it was mountainous. From Saipan, after we secured Saipan, we went over to Tinian and secured that.
What was your job?
My job, I was a machine gunner, light machine gunner.
And what kind of resistance were you facing there?
Saipan, quite a bit, on the beach especially, yeah. Because our landings area or zone was in what they call deflated fire, okay? Inflight fire. Machine guns and what have you to the right, and as we come on the beach, the target was pretty well engulfed, like cone shape, conical shape, and so that's what we faced from both flanks, and made it through that. And that's where I got my first Japanese sword.
Really?
Off a dead Japanese officer. Yeah.
Wow. How big was that battle? I mean, how many?
Huge. It was mountainous, very mountainous. I guess we were there almost maybe 3 weeks, something like that, as I best remember. Then we got through that and secured that. We went to Tinian. And that was a little smaller operation there.
How did that go?
Well, that was my first experience at tank infantry track. Japanese soldiers on the ground following the tank coming into our position. Of course, we took care of that.
What caliber was your machine gun?
Ours or theirs?
Yours.
Mine was .30 caliber.
Okay.
Light machine gun. And of course, at night we'd get our heavies up, so we'd have two, and set them up for what they call FPL, Final Protective Line at night.
Describe how you operated the gun.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, you set up a tripod. Generally, the gunner has the tripod. The assistant gunner has the ammunition for it. And what he does, he loads it and what have you. And the gunner fires it, and the assistant keeps the belt going straight and keeps another box of ammunition at the ready in case you get through with it. Well, you got another one to go.
How big was your unit?
Unit, I would say about 6 members, crew, most of them ammo carriers.
So after Tinian, where did you go?
After Tinian, we secured that, and we came back to Camp Maui and retrained and replenished our personnel and what have you, retrained them or trained them, and then we went on to Iwo.
Tell me about coming ashore at Iwo.
Okay, coming ashore at Iwo, had a bad experience. We were the first assault wave on the right flank, and we were in amphibian tractors, and our tractor installed out on the beach, on the surf zone. Tried to restart it, couldn't restart, and we were taking hits all the time, and mortars coming in, and no telling what else. A lot of rifle fire, machine gun fire. So I decided I'm getting out of that can, So I went over to the side, and when I went over to the side, it was over my head. And of course, somebody hands me a machine gun, and that didn't help any. 35 more pounds, and I'm soaking wet with my equipment.
Right.
And anyway, I kept worrying about this because this guy is still starting that tractor. And he wanted to get out of there too, okay, with that tractor. And I kept thinking about the treads, keep going around, and a wave would come in and raise the back of that thing, and it would pitch and yaw, And I want to get that machine gun and get out of there. And so I had some bubble time there. And finally I got good grip, went up the gradient and onto the beach. Got up on the beach here, and I finally got a hold of we reassembled, you might say, there on the beachhead, taking hits and what have you, a lot of fire. And then from there, we set up the machine gun, and we knew there's nobody ahead of us, okay? So anything up there, of course, you couldn't see the targets. They're underground or in bunkers or caves. And very few people did we see it first, okay? So we set up a machine gun and started firing, and we must have fired maybe 50 rounds, and something hit our gun and blew up. And I think it was probably an anti-tank gun, because I got shot in the face, and the gunner, he got shot in the chest, and so I didn't see him anymore. But I got shot in the face, so Corman came over, patched me up, and in the meantime, my eyes started closing from the impact of the explosion. And so I couldn't see for about 2 days out of my left eye. And then eventually things kind of slowed down, and I could see better the second day. And we just kept advancing forward. But I think it was 3 days before I saw a Jap. And of course, he came out of a bunker or out of a cave or something, or out of a fighting position. You couldn't see him unless they came out. And so when we were doing the machine gunning, we were shooting at targets of opportunity. We were shooting what we thought would be a gun emplacement or a firing position. So we were kind of shooting blind for a while not knowing where they would, can't see them.
So all this time they're shooting at you.
Yeah, well,
you
that's
can't
me,
see them.
us.
Yeah, all of you. Oh, yeah, all of you, obviously.
Yeah.
You, I mean, all the Marines.
Yeah.
You can't see them.
You can't see them, of course. I was having problems anyway.
You couldn't have seen them anyway, but you have no idea where to aim.
No.
That's
We
gotta
just
be
knew
terrifying.
there was nothing ahead of us other than there had to be any enemy. So we were shooting at any suspected firing position that we could think of. And just, landed in there and kept it advancing.
Did it get better once you were off that beach?
In spots. Yeah, sometimes you'd hit pocket of resistance at times, advancing. In the same situation, you could do the camouflage. Shooting out the caves or holes or whatever, spider traps, whatever. So that was pretty well lit. We did finally see one with him. I guess he got a little shook up, and he got out of his position. He trying to go to the rear, retreating, and we nailed him. Yeah.
How fast could you pick up and move that gun?
As fast as we could. If we didn't hear any resistance, then we advanced and kept on going and tried to keep our tactical integrity,
Yeah.
Got to keep on line, don't get ahead, or somebody, another guy's going to be shooting at us, So you had to keep in touch on both left flank, right flank.
So what was the toughest part going forward? I mean, you said they're all in the caves, they're on these bunkers.
Yeah.
So
Well-
what are you shooting at?
Well, when you're receiving fire, generally it's not a good idea to stand up. Advance. Unless you can see it, then you can address the situation as it happens. But we did receive quite a bit of fire.
So how did you effectively fire back if they had all this protection from the bunkers and the caves?
Well, we had armor piercing and tracers and what have you in our ammunition, our belts. So we could see where we're shooting, from the tracers. Mm-hmm. And of course, they had armored person mixed in there too. So they'd take care of any fortification unless it was really heavy, So a lot of times you're shooting blind. But we knew, as I said before, we knew there's nobody ahead of us. We're the first wave, assault wave.
What do you think when you think back on that now? I mean, I'm sure it was terrifying in the moment, but what do you think now?
Well, as I think back on it, the Lord had to be He had to be the director. Because we went through quite a bit of fire. And finally I was hit on the last day, first and last day.
Where'd you get hit the second time?
The second time was mopping up, the end of the island, mopping up. And I got one in the foot.
How fierce were the Japanese all the way to the end?
They were tough. They were well trained, well protected. And of course, they had tunneling systems that we knew not about, 3 stories deep. The commanding General Suribachi, his CP was on the second deck, second floor, down. He was not up on the ground level. He was in deep, in directing, in protection, you might say. But my understanding of him, that General Suribachi, who was in charge, he was his ancestry was samurai, so he was one tough cookie. And he gave instructions to the Japanese. Each soldier was supposed to get 10 Americans. That was their ratio. And they pretty well lived up to it. I mean, they were tough. They were consecrated, and of course, that's Japan. My understanding is it's the first Japanese-held land that we had taken. And they tried to keep us from getting farther into Japan proper.
Yeah, you're getting pretty close at that point.
Yes, about 500 miles, I guess.
Did you ever go into any of the caves?
Yeah, oh yeah.
What was it like in there?
Eerie. And you're a little apprehensive. Where does this lead to you? What am I getting myself into? How many's in here? What are they using?
How elaborate was it?
Pardon?
How elaborate?
It wasn't. No. My understanding later on I read, they used Korean from the Japanese-Korean War. They had used Korean laborers, POWs, miners specifically, to build those caves. That was to shore up and what have you. They were miners. So they knew what they were doing. Pretty nice, really. Fairly elaborate considering the time and what they had to work with.
Right. What was it like at the end of the battle?
We were still a little apprehensive. We were a little keyed up, you know. Took a little while to unwind. And then when they came back, that's the first time I saw Mount Suribachi. Yeah.
And the flag's up there?
Well, there was a flag there. They talk about the flag. I didn't see the flag until I came off the beach. That was behind us.
Okay.
My concentration was in the other direction.
And
That's
rightly
where
so.
we were getting our fire from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as you look back now at Iwo Jima, in terms of what you accomplished and the people you served with, what comes to mind?
Well, one thing, we were the victors, and in a sense, I had a little sympathy for the Japanese. They were fighting for their lives. Of course, I was too, and our troops, you know. But the first thing comes to mind, Rosenthal. I got a big picture of that flag race, and I got the one that he signed, hanging down in my den. And so I've seen a lot of that, and I've seen a lot of it here. And my question is, how come there's so much emphasis on Mount Suribachi and the flag raising? While they're putting that flag up there, I'm losing men, you know. And that's important. It's a good symbol, emblem, whatever you want, or memento. But there's putting a lot of emphasis on it. What about the rest of us guys, who is to our rear? You know, you don't see any emphasis on the troops or the main push or the assaults. That's what was heartbreaking, heart-rendering, to see some of these Marines just chewed up.
For over a month.
Yeah. Well, I may have lost time. I thought it was 34 days. I understand it was a few days longer. I don't know. My mission was to take them out. And I did the best I could.
But you were in it every single day of the whole battle, right?
Yeah.
What do you want younger generations to know about your service and those you served
just to be aware of the blood loss, the sacrifice. Later on, you know, as years went by, I understood, you know, we had 3 airfields there, or they had 2, and working on the third one, the Japanese, okay? And what that became a safe haven after we got in, our CBs got out there and made the bigger and better airstrips, and for the P-51s to escort the B-29s in from Guam and from Saipan and Tinian. And also on the way back, you know, these P-51s flew escort for the bombers, the B-29s, the flying forwards. But it was a safe haven for those planes that were shot up, limped back to, couldn't make it back to Saipan or Tinian and Guam, so had to land there, take care of the casualties, patch up the planes, and kind of a rest stop for their journey back to their airfields that they originated from. And so we saved a lot of people that way, you know. And of course, that was preliminary to the bombings there, the atomic bomb. Harry did a good job when he made that call. Because later on, I was in Japanese occupational force, went into Japan, and eventually I saw where we were going to land, the 4th Division, with the name of that place there was Chicasagi Beach. And it was nothing but mountains and caves. So it would have been a tremendous loss there.
So it would have been Iwo Jima exponentially.
Yeah, you know, it would have been horrific, really. So we saved a lot of men there.
Yes, sir. Well, Harry, we thank you very much for your time with us today. and we thank you for your service to our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Harry Martin is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, World War II, and the Battle of Iwo Jima. I'm Greg Columbus. This is Veterans Chronicles.